He is the deputy director of breaking news for Buzzfeed News and the journalist the gays need but don't deserve. Please welcome David Mack. Thank you for being here.
That is on my business card. Thank you. Yeah.
I want to get into our topic with a story. And here's the story. I was on vacation in Costa Rica with my partner, Ronan. And we happened to be doing a zip line, which he did not want to do, but I did. And we ended up being on this course with a bunch of gays that were in Costa Rica for a birthday party. And one of them was telling a story, and that they had been, we were talking about the poisonous frogs of the rainforest. And he said that he was on the balcony at his hotel, and all of a sudden a little tiny frog like jumped right next to him, and he kind of shooed it away with his hand. And he accidentally just lightly brushed the very top of this frog with the back of his hand. And all of a sudden, he felt a little bit strange, a little lightheaded, a little bit woozy. And he said it kind of was like poppers. And then one of his friends said, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to get one of those frogs and bring it home with me and put it in the drawer next to my bed. And then if somebody asks me, why is this frog in my bed? I'm going to say, oh, I use that to clean my VCR." So the reason David is here today is because we are talking about poppers, because he wrote a great piece for BuzzFeed that every gay person should read because it's informative, and every straight person should read because they'll find out what poppers are. First question to you, what are poppers, and why did you want to write a piece about them?
So I'll answer the second part first, because every year at BuzzFeed we do a Sex Week series, and they sort of sent out a call for submissions and like, who wants to write something this year? And typically it's like a lot of people writing like personal essays or things like that. What can I do about sex? I was like, no, I'm gonna do a kind of like Woodward and Bernstein here. I want to like I want to investigate something. I was like, what can I do that was like a serious like investigation into something to do with sex? And yes, the answer, of course, was in the bedside drawer, right? Like, what are these things, these poppers, that people? I've got friends. I've been at gay bars where people pass them around on the dance floor, right? To inhale, but also obviously it's used during sex as well, and comes in a small brown bottle. Typically, it is a chemical liquid that you inhale through your nostrils, one nostril at a time. And basically what it contains is alkyl nitrites. And I know this now because I've done the research, but of course when I started I didn't know anything about this. And I think it's fair to say a lot of gay men don't really know what the chemical is or what you're putting in your body.
Nothing. Nobody knows anything.
What's on the back of the frog, so to speak. So they're called alkyl nitrites, and they've actually been around for, since the mid-1840s, when they were first synthesized to...
Millard Fillmore, famously.
Right.
Loves poppers.
Big poppers queen. They've been around, they were used for about 100 years to treat angina, right? And so inhaled in like a glass ampoule kind of thing where you would crush or pop the kind of ampoule and inhale it to sort of relieve yourself of angina symptoms, and that hence the name poppers. And about the 1960s, the preferred treatment for that changed. But it was around that time that they kind of realized that there were a lot of men that were buying this product and using it for reasons that weren't to treat angina.
They didn't have angina. These guys didn't have angina.
No, so what it does is when you inhale it, it causes essentially your body to release nitric oxide in your body. And that causes your blood vessels to relax and expand. And it's basically a drop in blood pressure. And so it leaves you feeling quite like lightheaded and woozy for a couple of minutes. And during sex as well, it creates a kind of huge sort of rush in passion. And it can help to sort of loosen the anus muscles, which obviously for gay men can be quite useful. And so that's basically the chemical function of this. And I learned this because I literally called up the Chemical Society of America and was like, who have you got that can explain poppers to me? And they delivered.
Yeah, so there's you spoke to a writer named Adam Smith in the piece who's also, I think, writing a book about poppers. And what he said about this is I see this whole thing as an amazing, bizarre, queer performance. This strange dance between regulators and people that want to fuck each other in the bum, Smith said. Here's the thing that everyone knows exists and is in the open and is available, and yet no one talks about it, and no one really wants to know the full details. And it's like, hello, queer history. So even in just reading your piece, one thing I was really struck by, I mean, you talk about it, but like, I've never read a goddamn word about poppers. It is not discussed. And there is this great moment where you reach out to one of the producers of it, and he basically says, well, either you're going to write this without me or you're going to write this with me, and I got to just tell you everything. And so you really get a lot of information about it. But why do you think this thing, poppers, is both ubiquitous and never discussed?
I mean, you've hit at the central question of why I wanted to write the story in the first place, right? Like, here is this product. It's a drug that is banned technically by the government for human consumption. But of course, it's for sale everywhere under this sort of charade that it is a nail polish remover or a VCR cleaner, as you mentioned. And the government is not stupid. They know what's going on, that you can buy this in sex shops and bodegas across the country, right? But they're choosing to sort of just let that kind of exist over there. And I was fascinated by this idea of like, well, where do these things come from, right? Like, who is making them and who is profiting from them? And I think, like, as you said, in Adam Smith, a British writer, great guy, he gave me that amazing quote about this kind of idea of this sort of dance between the government and the sort of gay community in many senses, because we're kind of all going about this pretend system where we're, you know, buying these VCR cleaners for a technology that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly stable market for VCR head cleaners these days. But one thing that was interesting to me, and just the way the people involved in the poppers manufacturing business talk about it, there's this little bit of like, hey man, we got a good thing going here. Don't fuck it up, all right? Everybody just be cool. We call it nail polish remover. Gay people sniff it in their noses to have sex, and it is great. Did you feel a little bit of worry that you, David Mack, personally may lead to the shutdown of the poppers business in the United States?
It was a concern that I discussed with some gay friends. Will I be banned from gay bars across the country?
You will be, my friend. Honestly, well, I'll sign the change.org petition if this thing goes away. I'll say,
I think that's fair.
You'll be responsible.
Look, I'll deserve it. But I think definitely, you know, it was a worry of mine. But as you said before, I kind of was able to write this story because of the truly insane fact that two of the leading poppers manufacturers in this country are currently suing each other in federal courts, never using the words poppers, by the way, and the judge doesn't use the word poppers, but there and printed in the lawsuits are all these pictures of Rush and all the other brands, right?
The judge is, of course, RuPaul.
Right. They never, you know, so they've got this incredible thing going on. So it was like on the public record that this was happening. And as you said, I reached out to these manufacturers, and in the end, only one of them wanted to talk to me, but with certain conditions. But yeah, with the idea, as you said, that like there is this sort of thing that's been going on, and they're kind of done things in a way where they are using these loopholes to sort of continue to get around this, and they've got a very good thing going on. But he was very gracious in the end, and a really interesting character. He's a straight, white, married guy with 2 adult children who lives outside Philadelphia, and he makes what he estimates is 75% of America's poppers.
It's also, by the way, a good business. I want to talk about these prices. $1 to make a container of poppers, $4.50 to the wholesaler, $6 to the retailer, $20 to the consumer. We're getting screwed here, and then we're getting screwed here. You know.
Yes, there's a huge markup, and also one of the stunning things that I learned in reporting this from 2 people involved in the industry told me that essentially all the brands are exactly the same.
Yes. By the way, look, not to put too fine a point on it, but like that surprised me greatly. I was like, how can that possibly be true?
Yes.
That they're all just the exact same substance, in those little jars?
I talked to a guy that wanted to remain anonymous in the story because essentially he was admitting that he'd been breaking the law, and he is the self-described inventor of the brands, what was it, Super Rush, Gold Rush, Black Rush, and basically he had a background in marketing and was like, I learned all these things in marketing school where if you like make it like a black label, people will think it costs more, it's more expensive and they'll pay more for it, even though essentially it's all the same chemical compound in all the bottles. It's where people are just convincing themselves that they're all having a good laugh at our expense, put it that way.
This is news you can use. So...
and then get used.
And get used. Hey, we're having fun here. Look, we're just having fun. Just a couple of people having a conversation. I don't know if you came across other examples or other analogs to poppers where there is this universally understood real use and everyone pretends otherwise. And like, I wondered, is it just because it's been around so long that we allow this? Like, this is not how we talk about mushrooms. Look, listen, I don't hope no regulators listen to this. Nobody's cleaning their VCRs with this stuff. This is a sex drug that is sold every store. What was your lesson in terms of like how we regulate drugs or what other drugs are like this as you were kind of researching this story?
So I think it's really interesting, that point, because the drug itself is really not dangerous. To be clear, like for most people, right? It is essentially, as I said, it's a 2-minute high at most, really, for most people. And it's dangerous for people who may have like heart or circulation issues, or also, interestingly, if you're taking erectile dysfunction pills, that's going to mess up with your blood pressure issues as well. But it's the deaths mostly that occur with poppers are when people are accidentally, usually drinking them by mistake. Maybe they're too messed up at a club or at a bar or something and get handed something and think it's a 5-hour energy drink or something, right? And that can kill you. Those are the rare deaths with poppers. But as you say, like, there are drugs in this country that are legal that cause tens of thousands of deaths every year in this country. You know, one of the original sort of king of poppers makers back in the 70s was sort of proudly talking about how he was making the third legal hedonistic product in America after tobacco and alcohol. I think the difference here is, obviously this is hugely relevant to one community, right? A marginalized community. And the reason why poppers is subject to a federal ban, two of the particular compounds as they're structured, is because of it was originally done as a way of protecting the gay community, because this came about in the 80s when the AIDS crisis hit. Poppers were one of the key suspects within the gay community for what might be causing AIDS. No one knew initially what was causing HIV, what was causing AIDS, and a lot of people, there was a big movement to presume perhaps that poppers was perhaps carcinogenic, that they were perhaps lowering the immune system, and so the ban was passed in 1990 after a lot of lobbying from the gay community to do something about this drug. Of course, we know that's not true now, but it's still subject to this ban. And I think any severe crackdown on poppers now, and part of the reason why in the end I wasn't too afraid to write this story, is because I don't think realistically any government has it in them to pick this battle with what is a hugely still a marginalized community, but also a very politically influential community. And you know, when they tried to do this in the UK just a couple of years ago to try and do stricter regulation, you had a conservative MP who, interestingly, is the uncle of Emily Blunt, the actor, standing up in Westminster and giving a speech and outing himself as a poppers user.
I use poppers. I out myself as a popper user and would be directly affected by this legislation.
He's a gay man, and he was saying, like, I use poppers in sex. This is a stupid idea. We are going to fuel the black market. This will not go away. And all you will do is drive it underground. And, you know, it will even more underground perhaps than it already is. Yeah.
Well, to that point, one last question on this. As you said, it does have there is a specific reason it is popular in the gay community, because it is a drug that has a felicitous impact on gay sex, on anal sex specifically. But it's also a party drug because it has a euphoric quality, has a rush to it. Why has it been so stuck in the gay community? Like, I think straight people would like poppers. What are they afraid of?
And the stories are there. More straight people are using it. Poppers have become more culturally prominent, for sure. They're getting used by more straight people, and not just the kind of straight people that gay guys are bringing to gay bars, which are a lot of the straight people that I've seen use poppers. Have done it with gay friends and things like that. But the answer is, I don't know. I think as they continue to become more culturally prominent, there's celebrities like Lena Dunham has said that she did poppers, and I think Sam Smith said they did them with the lead singer of the Pussycat Dolls as well, who doesn't want to talk about it. But they're everywhere, kind of getting more and more spoken about, and hopefully, who knows, maybe my story will encourage. I definitely had colleagues be like, "So what are these things? Like, where can I get them?"
Well, like, a friend was asking me where I could get some of these. What did you call them? You called them poppers? Poppers? Well, yes, I do think to our straight listener, give it a shot. David Mack, thank you so much for getting to the bottom of this. I'm sorry. And it's a really great story. And it's a fascinating topic because it is this queer story about a queer product that is popular in a very queer way. So thank you so much for being here.
Spend it on myself.